today we get to be whoever we want. We get to be fun and cute and sweet, or someone's worst nightmare. And honestly, one of those is more fun than the other. We get to play characters today. We get to be a different version of ourselves. But honestly, aren't we playing characters all the time? I mean, when I have to talk to specific people or be in certain situations, I'm playing very different versions of myself because not everybody needs to know everything about me. So if we can take that energy into the rest of our week, into the rest of the year, into the rest of our lives, we might actually get to become every version of ourselves that we've ever wanted. That's why we love actors, isn't it? They get to be in all these movies and have these fun lives and speak different languages and just be different versions of themselves. So why not do the same for us? And today I want to talk about 3 lessons from my most recent writing, Angels and Demons, that can help us become the person we want by letting go of what once was. Now, Angels and Demons is a commemoration of the past year that I've lived, but also an amalgamation of all the feelings that I felt in that time period and the past few years. It is a love story to myself, to my best friend who went through similar things at the same time, and to all of you who have ever dared to defy the rules set out before you. There is a bunch of writing from the things that I've been through, allusions to some explicitly said, and it is just a fun way to share the stories that I've been through, and I really did feel at peace after I wrote it. Now, the first lesson that I want to talk about with this is the idea that you are writing this story for yourself. No matter who you are dedicating it to, no matter who inspired these stories alongside you, no matter what anybody else went that mirrored your own, it is your story to tell, and no one else's validation can matter more than your own. Now, I did write this in the foreword, but it was to my friend who moved to the other side of the country literally within a week of when I moved to North Carolina. And the song Heads California, Tails Carolina, Heads Carolina, Tails California was our song because it was literally us. And the original song was Packed My Bags in Boston and Headed South, and that's literally what we did. But the thing is, I don't even think she read the book. She definitely didn't read it when I got to her, and it was in dedication to her. But I wasn't mad that she didn't really enjoy it as much or care as much, and of course she did, but you know how you think someone's going to react a certain way, then they don't, and then you get upset about it? Yeah, those are the things that we have to stop doing. We have to stop giving this power to all of these people in our lives, not in our lives, to the people on the internet, or to the people that just exist in this world. We have to stop giving them power over our own story and the things that we do. So I sent it to her for her birthday. Her birthday was like about a month after I had released it on Amazon, and I was excited for her to see it and to read it, and I don't think she's gotten around to it. But the thing is I wrote it for me. First and foremost, every piece of writing I've ever done has been for me to understand myself better, to release things, to move on from things. And that's really what a lot of artists do. Albums and paintings, they put their soul into it and they process through what they're going through within the process of writing it, and sharing it is really just the end result. The work has been done in the process of creating it. And my work of figuring out the cover and all of the pages in between, that was for me. It wasn't for anybody else to validate my story or what I've been through. So if you feel like you need somebody else to validate that, yeah, it was mean what this person did to you, or it was hurtful, or yeah, your boss should have promoted you instead of fired you, it's great that you have people to talk to and to commiserate with. But at the end of the day, it is your story to be told and your story to figure out. And whether you write it down or not, it is up to you when the next chapter begins. And when I released it on August 14th, I really did decide that I was done feeling bad about the things that I had gone through. And for me, that was like 6 months after my birthday, 6 very life-changing months. but that's how I want the rest of my life to be. I want it to constantly be changing. I want to look from a year from now and be like, oh my God, I had absolutely no idea that what was in store for me was in store for me, and that I can't predict past what the next few hours is going to look like. I want my life to be that exciting so I can step into all of these characters so that I can be the devil one day and be an elf the next, or an angel, or whatever other figure I want to be that day. And who you are isn't changing with all of these costume changes. And that's really the heart of it, isn't it? That though Tom Cruise plays different characters, granted a lot of his movies he plays the exact same character, he's still Tom Cruise at the heart of it. And a lot of people would like to imagine him as the guy from Impossible. I don't know why I picked this story because I cannot remember any of his characters, but he is still who he is. His characters are people he plays, they aren't who he is. So when we develop these parasocial relationships with these characters, we think we know who they are, but that's not them. Harry Potter is not actually who Daniel Radcliffe is all the time. That's a character he played. That's not who he is. He's played other characters in different movies that other people might recognize him as, but who he is still Daniel Radcliffe, and whether he dresses up as Harry Potter or whatever other characters he's played, he is still himself, and he adds parts of that personality to each character. So of course that is where the mix-up happens, is when I dress up like this, and when I wear the fancy dress, and when I wear my business suit, I am still the same person. So of course everybody is going to see each of those as different versions of myself, but at the heart of it, it's still who I am. And I have to decide when that chapter ends, when the page gets turned, and when I no longer embody different characters. Being the author of a book of your own life, you get to decide who the book is dedicated to, who the characters become when their story ends and when the next chapter begins. And if you're writing a series of books, you decide which characters are going to have their stories ended or their stories continued. And that is exactly the power that you have over your own life. And whether you dedicate your life to someone or a cause or something else, you are still the person that is running the story and writing the story. We're never going to confuse that the dedication of the book to that person is the person who wrote the book. No, we know that Nicholas Sparks wrote the book whether he dedicated to his kids or not. He was the writer of that book. Now, do I think he still actually writes all of his books? We can talk about it another time. I don't necessarily think so, but his last book was closer to what he usually writes. I did actually get to meet him, which was really cool, and we got a picture together. But the author is very much the author, and the work stands on its own, separate from that person. I am not this book that I wrote. I am not any book that I read. I am a person separate from all of these. These are just amplifications of what I felt at the time or what I was doing at the time. It is not who I am as a person. So whether somebody else provides validation or not, it is up to you to decide who gets a part in your play, but it is still your play. You are directing and producing and deciding when the next shot begins. So do not hand your power constantly to other people. And if you are doing something for someone, understand that that person may or may not react the way that you would want them to or expect them to. Which is why your expectations of other people have to be a lot lower. And the expectations of yourself have to be a lot higher. I released this, and I had to be the person who was excited for me that I was able to finally put behind me a chapter that had done what it could for me. And this story, once it was done and once I had it in my hand, I had a few hours where I reread it, and I do not really think back on these stories anymore. Once you write it out, you really do get it out, and it is really just that. You have to move on and you have to let it go because the next chapter needs to begin. And I've done so many other things since then, and I want to keep going. So that is why we have to be the person who is validating ourselves, and that everybody is just a minor character in your play. Even if they do have a significant part, You are still directing the shots, and you get to decide when somebody's role in your play does need to come to an end because they're not doing their lines correctly and it's time for them to move on. Now, on to lesson number 2. When writing this book, I had to spend the time processing what I went through. We have to give ourselves the space to actually go through the things that we went through and to look back and to realize what those lessons were and to say, you know what? These lessons were mine to learn. These mistakes that I did, they were mine, and no one gets to take that from me. When I released this book, no one could take it from me. Amazon allowed it to be on their storefront, and that is all I needed. I just needed to get it in front of myself to understand the importance of what I went through, and nobody gets to tell me the value of what I went through and what it meant. Only I get to decide that, and I get to redefine it. And I get to say, you know what? I actually don't care that you think that what I'm doing is stupid. That me traveling or doing this job or doing this workout is dumb. I don't want somebody in my life who has such low views of me anyway. And the reason the people who are in my life right now are because they're adding to it. They're adding joy or excitement, or they're at least not taking away. And that is a pretty low bar, and yet that is an even higher bar than a lot of people keep in their life. So make sure that the people who are in your life are actually adding to it. Because the people who inspired a majority of these stories or who were the background characters that caused these situations, they're no longer in my life. And the people who are in my life who this story was dedicated to, they're still there. And they will continue to be there. And I am the main character in all of these stories. I am the one who has to write the book, who has to write the chapter, who has to develop it so that it makes sense. You never just write a paper and then hand it into the professor or the teacher or whatever, right? You go back through and you reread it to make sure that it made sense. That's what you have to do with your life as well. You have to go through something and then go back through it in your mind to figure out if that actually made sense. I spent all day cooking and cleaning, and then this person came in and they said the food was horrible and that they were mad at me the whole time and then they refused to help clean up. Nope, that actually does not make sense to me. This person no longer gets a part in this movie of my life. You have to go through things, and then you have to go through it and process, did this make sense? Is this what I want? Is this making me happy? What are you doing to get yourself to the next step, and how are you processing through the data? Whether we want to be writers or scientists, engineers, accountants, we have to double check our work. And that isn't just, oh, I'm at work and I need to make sure that I didn't miss anything. We have to take that narrative and do it into the rest of our lives. You need to double check that all your bills are being paid. Because if they're not, you might come home and not have electricity. That has happened to me very recently, and I should have double checked that it was being paid when I kept seeing emails and they said that the balance was high. Now, it would have been great if there was like an explicit email that said, hey, these bills aren't being paid, but it was up to me to figure it out because only I was the one that was going to have to deal with not having electricity for multiple days. So all of these things that you're doing, actually double check them. And the reason I didn't have the bandwidth to log into my electricity account was because I was so obsessed with trying to figure out how to help people who weren't asking me for help. And the second I stopped doing that, I figured out, you know what? I am the only one that brought me into this mess of my life at this point, and I'm the only one who's going to get me out because nobody else is spending as many hours as I have talking to people about other people's problems and trying to figure out how to help them when that person never asked me for help. And I can't waste my energy that way anymore. And as soon as I stopped doing that, I found the space to sign up for more courses and watch the TV shows that I like and to talk to people that I was actually interested in and not dedicate my one life to helping people who never asked for it. And even if they had asked for it, there's still only so much I can do. There's only so much other people can do for you, whether you go to therapy or go to a gym or whatever. Unless you pick up the equipment and move it and move your body, you are not going to get fit. There is nobody that can do the work for you, and therefore I can't do the work for someone else either. So when I finally took a step back and realized, hey, nobody else is writing the story of my life, I have to write it myself, and therefore everybody else has to do it for themselves too. I am no longer interested in doing it for them. So take a step back and figure out, what is it that you're going through? Is it even yours that you're going through? And if your problems aren't even your own, stop thinking about them. Stop worrying about them. They are not your problem to do. Now, we've talked about processing things. What are the actual ways to implement that process? And there's a few more months to the end of the year, and I want to focus it on finally filtering through everything I've been through, getting to a point where I say, you know what? I understand what I went through, and this is the next journey of my life, and I want to take you guys on that journey with me, and we're going to do it together. Over the month of November, I want to spend the whole month and through the rest of the year taking time to figure out, what is it that I've been through? Not just this past 6 months, but my entire life. How have all the things that I've been through gotten me to this point? What have I gone through? What are the lessons there? And how can I move on? Because we can pretend that we've moved on because we have more things occupying our mind and have different people in our lives. But unless the habits at the heart of it are completely different, nothing has actually changed. And I want to show to myself, and for you guys to show yourself that you have gone through things and that you will continue to go through. So I have this very large scratch pad that I want to write out over these next few weeks, all the stuff that I've been through and the lessons from it and what it actually meant. And we're going to do it together. So I will release videos at a time where I go through the different things that I've been through, and then we can do it together and we can share what the other person has figured out or what you figured out about your life, and we can just get better together, because we don't have to wait for January 1st to come up with a new life. We can start today on Halloween, where we get to dress up as whoever we want, because this is our life and we get to be all of these people. Now, something else that I've done in the past is a chakra journey. Now, if you know about the chakras or not, there's 7 chakras that align with the 7 energy portals in your body or something, but it also lines up with the hormonal system and the 7 areas within your body, and it all lines up on the same system. So very fascinating, whether you believe it or not. It is an interesting way to go about it, because every chakra can be blocked by a different emotion and different experiences that you've been through. So what I did, I believe this was in 2020 to 2021, is I got these notebooks. They were at Target, and I think it was like $3, and it was amazing. But I started with the red one, so the root chakra, and then I went through and I wrote what the root chakra is, what it means, how I'm overcoming it, and how I'm going to be thinking about it over the month that I'm doing it. So it was like an 8-month journey that I did, where I went through every single one. There's 7 here for all the different ones, all the chakras. And then I did a kind of like compilation for all of the stuff that I learned for all the different ones, and like a letter to myself. So it was like a very sweet journey, and I feel like it really did level me up, because when I started it, I was living at my parents' house, my first job out of college, and then by the end of it, I had bought my own condo. I was at a higher paying job, I was living on my own, and I was in a very different place because I just got rid of all of these blocks. So, because we're never totally rid of all the stuff that we've been through, I got these new notebooks. I got these on Amazon, actually. I can link it down below. But they're hardcover, so they kind of remind me of the book that I released. But there's like 25 pages, and I want to go through and pull out the information that I've learned and pull out the information from all the courses that I've signed up for over this year and look through all of my writing from before and all my quotes from books that I've read and just pull it all together and kind of like redo this journey and, you know, match them up. Like this would be the red one. And yeah, we can do it together. You don't need any of these fancy colors or fancy books or fancy sketch pads, but all of this stuff you can get at Five Below or Target or whatever. This is all stuff from Five Below. And just write down the things that you're experiencing. So I want to do it together, and I will share videos as I'm going through this journey, and we can do it together. But I really do want this to be a transformational day, life, everything, because today is not the only day that we get to dress up and embody all of these different things. We don't get to just write one chapter and that's it. We get to choose to write as many chapters as we want, as many books as we want, and it's really it. This is the life that we get to live, and I'll read the dedication. This is a love letter to me, to the world, and most importantly, to you. The world is a beautiful place, and I hope you never lose sight that you make it so. This is your life. Dress up, enjoy it, become the characters that you want, and let go of the characters that you don't want when that time comes too. I'll link this down below. I'll link down below where I got these because they're really cute. I bought far too many of them. You don't need any of it. You just need yourself, a pen and paper, and to have the will to start your life, because today is the start of the rest of your life and you get to enjoy it. Happy Halloween! I hope you get a bunch of candy and you have a night of fun, and that you meet me back here very soon so that we can start this journey of processing this life together. Because if not us, who? If not when? But now, this quote got away from me. But if you like what you see, we've also talked about ACOTAR, Court of Thorns and Roses, and Beetlejuice. There's a lot of lessons to be learned in this world, but the most important lessons are the ones that you've gone through and that we can process together. I'll see you very soon. Have an amazing day. Happy Halloween!